Diamond Stylz. How you doing today?
I am great. How are you?
I am awesome. I am awesome. Happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I appreciate you giving me some of your time on your birthday. I appreciate it.
We kept missing each other. Now we finally got our schedules to click.
Right now we here. Um, I did some reading up on you and I was like, wow, you like blew my mind. Like you're a very interesting woman. And so I guess we could start off with high school
Okay.
and how you won that suit against the school. Am I correct? High school, yes.
So I am originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. I am currently living in Houston, but I'm originally from Indianapolis, and that is where the beginning of my transition happened. I started to transition the year before high school. And like right between junior high and high school. So I went to high school thinking, okay, boom, how am I going to to actualize my truth? And so my plan was that I was going to go to high school and slowly inch my way into wearing full girl clothes because I wanted to be acknowledged as a girl and wanted my transition to be smooth. And my strategy was, okay, I'm gonna start getting my nails done, but I'm not gonna get them in like bright rainbow or bright colors and da 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 da. I'm just gonna get them in a white French tip, maybe just really something subtle. Started to wear makeup, started to grow my hair out, not drag makeup, but just makeup to make my face natural looking makeup. Because I knew if I did the nails, bright colors, or whatever, any color, and I knew I did the makeup and had to start doing wigs, that would be a shock to people. And it would make people notice me and it that kind of shock can make them respond. I didn't want a response. I wanted to just be. And so over between my freshman year and my sophomore year is when I kind of slowly ease into it. My clothing got tighter because in the 90s, child, clothing for boys was big. But even for girls, because if you think about like Aaliyah and there was this kind of athleisure, athletic, tomboyish kind of aesthetic, but femme. And
Mhm.
so that's what I was going to. I wanted to go to a more slowly but surely more feminine presentation. So by the time I get to my sophomore year, I was fully doing my thing. Hair has grown out. Nails can be a color, makeup, lip gloss, lipstick. It was a different aesthetic. So that was my goal. And it actually worked because there was not a moment in high school where people were like, bam, oh my God, you're coming to school in drag or you're coming to school as a girl. It was nothing like that. It was just slowly but surely. And my plan worked perfectly because none of my teachers, none of the principals, none of the deans, none of them said anything to me about how I dressed because it just started to be a part of who I was. I was, and it didn't cause the students any kind of, oh my God, you're coming to school like that because I slowly eased it up on them. So that was my plan. So fast forward to my senior year, I graduate early because I was going through a very, very hectic time in my life because my mother was going through her addiction with crack and she was in and out of prison because of the crime bill that Biden had put into place, Clinton and Biden, and that whole little criminalization of Black people. Well, criminalization, but that disproportionately affected Black people. And so in my senior year, I was in a group home. I got emancipated. So I ended up going out of the group home and getting my own apartment. So my senior year, I was in my own apartment, paying my own bills at 17 years old. So I wanted to get out of school fast. So I wanted to get my credit. So that's what I did. I got my credits real fast. I took some summer classes so I can get credits faster. So by the time we get to the last year, I didn't have to go to school for that last semester because I had all the credits that I needed.
Nice.
So, but I was still in my activities when it comes to like drama class, anything like doing plays or anything in the choir, any of the fun activities I was able to do. And so that last week of my senior year, I didn't have any classes. We have a class picture, and my and my principal pulls me into the office and tells me that I cannot come to the prom in a gown.
Wow.
Now, mind you, this is 2 days before prom.
Wow.
Anybody who knows how prom works, you get gowns and stuff made months. You
Months.
put down payments, you get it fitted, you go test out the fitting. Anybody who has been to prom knows that that's how even boys, they go get tux fitting, they gotta rent it. That's just what the culture of prom is. Like, you start
Okay.
doing this stuff again. So you don't tell me 2 days before that I can't go to the prom.
Right.
Because now you have messed up my money. I done put down payments. I done paid for gowns. By this time, gowns would have come to me already.
Yeah.
I've already paid. I can't just get my refund on a gown that's custom to me. So all these things were happening, and I felt it was like super, super crazy that she would come and tell me after 4 years of high school of me being this queer, feminine entity, trans person, that she would tell me I couldn't go to the prom in a gown. So I was devastated because why would you do this? Like, what is happening?
Right.
So I go and tell my English teacher. Don't we love English teachers? They're so amazing sometimes. Um,
My wife's an English teacher.
yes, they're so amazing sometimes. And she told me, well, this seems like it's very, very unfair, but don't tell anybody that I told you this. But here's the number to the ACLU.
All right now.
Tell them about your situation. I think that they can help you. So I called them and they said, yes, we would love to take your case on. And they took my case on and we took them to court. We sued my high school, the Indianapolis, not just the high school, the whole public school system, Indianapolis public school system, to force them to let me go to the prom in a gown. They told me to call the news. They told me to get an interview on the news. Nobody would pick up none of the news organizations would pick up the story except for NBC, of course. And they came to my house and it was on the news that night. And that was Tuesday night. Wednesday, we forced them to give us a court hearing and expedite it because this is 2 days before. So Thursday was the prom. And so it was all over the news again on Wednesday. It was just all over the city. My mother was calling me saying, "Oh my God, people are calling and telling me about you being on the news, about going to the prom in a gown." And she was like, what is happening? All my family was just buzzed about talking about it, gossiping and talking about it. And so Thursday we went to court, and in court they were asking questions about, because the premise of the what they saying how they were saying that me going to a prom in a gown was disrupting the educational process.
Wow.
That's ridiculous because this is the prom.
Right. That's a far reach.
That's a reach. This is prom. What is educational about the prom? Come on. And it's not going to be at the school. It's like at 7:00 at night. It's so dang on prom. And how can it be disruptive if I've been like this? Like, it'd be different if I was just coming to the prom as a girl one time at the prom for the very first time. I have been going to school as a girl, going to girls' bathrooms, living my truth, and y'all haven't said anything. There has not been any consequences. Nobody has.
Nothing.
They will say something, but as far as like officially doing something about me dressing as a girl or coming as a girl, nobody's done anything. Like, they'd be like, "Oh, you really look pretty today." They would say nice stuff. Like, their response to it was nothing disciplinary,
Yeah.
or nothing at all. And so they didn't, the judge in the court case, the judge was like, I don't understand if she's been going like this. I don't understand why this is a problem. And she literally has 600 signatures of students saying that they would not have a problem with her going to the prom in a gown. Because my cisgender friends, my cisgender homegirls, in the process of this whole ordeal, said, we're going to help you out and get petition to get people's signature from people on the football team, all people that you might stereotypically think would have a problem with it. But I was cool with people on the football team. Because they grew up with me and because I eased this into the scenario, I was a good student. I was a popular student. I was not saying that I had an amazing time, because yes, I got bullied, but by the time we get to senior year, everybody knows me and fucks with me.
Gotcha.
So I have done the work to win over my student body to me. And so by this time, the students are like, yo, y'all tripping. The parents are like, yo, y'all tripping. We've been knowing this kid since they were a freshman. And they have won awards in choir for y'all. They have been speakers. They have been in plays. They have been a part of the student body, so much so that we know them by name. And so why are y'all all of a sudden harassing them about how they're dressing and coming to school and blah, 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 when they've been like this? And the judge sided with me because of that. Like, it'd be different if this was a big old reveal, but no, this is how this person has been coming, and y'all have not proven that this was going to be a problem. And they actually have proven that it's not going to be a problem. So why are y'all harassing this person? So I won my case, and I sued them to go to the prom, and I forced them through the law to be able to let me go to the prom in a gender affirming gown. And that is when I started. That was in 1999, and that's when I started like my activism. It really galvanized me in knowing that I can fight back. I can actually fight and win. I don't think that I would be who I am if that scenario wouldn't have turned out the way that it did. I probably would have had a fear, maybe, I don't know. But I know winning this gave me the guts to even go to the college that I went to, because I was the first Black trans woman to go to Jackson State University, the HBCU in Mississippi, conservative Mississippi. And having that win under my belt gave me the courage to kind of push the envelope in the future.
So it kind of catapulted you into your purpose.
Yeah, definitely catapulted me in my purpose and gave me some insight on how the world works a little bit. Because even in that, when I won and it was all over the news that I won, when I pulled up in my limousine to go to the prom, there was people outside with picket signs, and I thought that it was going to be people against me, but it literally was parents saying leave. Now, they weren't affirming, they were saying leave him alone. but they were in support of me. So this is the 90s, so it was a different time. Right. And so, but they were like, leave him alone. Like, we're so proud of him. We're so proud of you. Do your thing. And you know, we support you. Don't let it. And this is parents, and this is teachers, and you know, it just was a very affirming, surprisingly affirming, because nobody thought that I was going to win. Even my principal, who started the whole campaign against me, you know, she was a petty adult woman. And she caught me in like the hallway and was telling me, you know, you're gonna lose. I don't even know why you're gonna embarrass yourself. This is what she's doing to a high schooler. This old grown woman, you know, you're gonna lose. And what I didn't know, and I know now, she was, prior to me being in high school, she was, I guess, to give a Black cultural reference, she was the Joe Clark of this particular school system. So she was the darling. She was a Black woman teacher who came in and increased the test scores, and she basically the Joe Clark from Lean on Me. And so, but I'm coming in as this queer person, and So she had kind of like this kind of arrogant head bitch in charge kind of mindset. Like, you know, you're gonna lose. Like, she literally saw me walking in the hallway alone and came up there just to taunt me before.
Okay. Oh,
That.
she ain't still in the educational system.
So wait. So this is the funny part. So she was in the educational system because she, like I said, she was, even though I beat her in that case, she still was the darling. And, you know, she became whatever, like a superintendent and da 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 da. Fast forward to 2015, her son became a principal,
Mm.
and he was molesting teenagers at his school. And
Wow.
she knew about it and was covering it up.
It don't surprise me though.
Yeah. And so
Surprise me, though.
in one of my articles that I wrote about it, because this is actually the 25-year anniversary of the situation.
What's this
I was
Wilson?
Yeah, the June will be when I actually won. And so I wrote in my blog, I was like, maybe if she was more worried about raising good sons instead of worrying about somebody else's son wearing a dress, her son wouldn't have been harming women, girls, harming young girls in the school system. She would have been a better example. She should have been focused on her sons instead of focused on somebody else's.
Ain't that the truth? Amen. Tell you what, boy. It never surprises me, man. It never surprises me.
Never.
Oh, I live here in North Carolina, and like, here now, it is required for teachers to inform parents if you say my pronouns are whatever they are, or I would prefer if you call me whatever. They are required to report to your parent that you don't wish to be called by whatever name you choose or whatever pronouns.
Oh,
Yes, it's rough out here. It's rough out here.
yeah. Oh,
Out here. All right, so we win that, right? And so then what's the next part of the journey in activism, or next part of your journey?
So I wouldn't say that it was like intentional, but me going to Jackson State was the next. That's college. So that was high school. I go to college in Jackson, Mississippi. So ironically, in this scenario, I was supposed to go to North Carolina A&T.
Ah,
So that was my first choice. I did get accepted. I was so excited about going North Carolina A&T, but my mom was like, yo, you ain't got no family in North Carolina. You got family in Mississippi. So if you want to go out of state, because remember I was in Indiana, if you want to
right.
go out of state, you need to pick Jackson State because you got family in Mississippi. And if
Hey,
something happens, it's family there.
that makes sense.
It makes sense, but that's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to North Carolina A&T. I wanted to be an Aggie. So I was devastated because my favorite school teacher, my English teacher, her daughter went to North Carolina A&T, and she's the one who got me hyped up. I went on a tour to North Carolina, so I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna go to the school I wanted to go to," and so I ended up going to Jackson State University, and so my freshman year was the start of one of the most isolating, terrorizing experience of my life. Like, it was just one of those memorable moments in your life that was like super, super bad.
Mm,
I was a freshman. I was the first trans person to go to this college. At the time, that's what I thought. It actually was a girl going there before me, but she got kicked out really, really fast.
mm,
So and didn't really get kicked out. She just didn't fight to stay.
mm.
So it was really, really fast, pushed out. I was the first one to come and stay and be open because she wasn't actually open. Come and stay and be an open trans woman. And so because of that, they put me in a boys' dorm.
Oh, wow.
And so I am fully transitioned, breast. I'm not, I had, remember, I transitioned 4 years in high, the year before high school. So I was already 4 years, and I waited and I did it like a break year. So I was like already 5 years into my transition by the time I get to Jackson State. And so I had started hormones at 16. So I had grew my breast. I am living my truth. And
Right.
so, and so when I get there, they didn't, and I'm passable. So that gives a nuance as well. So I'm passing. So when they put me in the boys' dorm, only people who know that I'm there are people who that actually are in this dorm. There are multiple dorms across the campus. So, but me walking through campus, people can't tell that I'm trans. And so it took about a month or two for people to figure out who was the trans person on campus. Because it's not like they announced this is the trans woman. No. So dudes are trying to holler at me. Dudes, because I'm a young college freshman girl. So this is how strange it was. I was sitting on a bench outside of our student union, and these two girls were sitting next to me, and they started talking about, I think, they're telling me that it's a trans person or like a drag queen dressing up as a girl that's on campus. Have you seen them yet? And I'm sitting next to them. They're talking about me. But because I was passable and they did that, I guess what they were expecting was this big drag queen or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was not that. I come up in the 90s. I was a 90s trans woman, and in that time, safety was about blending. And so that assimilation and looking the part and not being too overdone and not wearing too much makeup, and I'm from Indiana, so it ain't like I'm in LA or New York where even the cis women are kind of flamboyant and flashy. No, I'm in middle of America, Midwest. The women
Midwest.
rarely had weaves. They didn't do no lashes. They didn't do no makeup. They were like,
Yeah.
homely.
Yeah,
So
I
in
grew up in Chicago, so I know what
Yeah, so
you're
but even Chicago was a little more advanced,
talking
like
about.
and the girls in Chicago, because I'm Indianapolis right there, so I know the culture there too. Even
Yeah,
the girls in Chicago were a little bit more advanced in Indianapolis.
yeah,
So
definitely.
so to blend in with the girls in Indianapolis, you had to be regular degular. You had to grow your own hair. You had to, because folks weren't in the 90s, folks weren't wearing wigs in the way that they're wearing it now. It
Right.
actually was kind of old. It kind of made you, it was kind of was like something people would tease you about. You got on a wig. Like that wasn't something that was
Right.
popular for a teenage girl, 20 something girl to do. This is a time when roller wraps and freeze curls and you
So,
having hair was popular,
yeah.
um, the trend. And so I had my own roller wrap. I had my, I was living the part. And so I was blending so well that in the beginning, people could not put a face to who they were talking about. So, but they were basically but in the dorm, they were terrorizing me. Once they figured out who I was, and I mean, so much so that they tried to throw boiling hot water on me. Like boil the water and tried to throw it on me. Like come and knock on my door and open the door. They tried to throw boiling harm me. Just for me being me. I didn't do anything to anybody. Just for me being there. So people wouldn't sit with me, and I was used to boys being bullies, but I wasn't used to girls being bullies. I wasn't used to gay men. Even they weren't being bullies, but they were being, I don't even want to deal with you.
Wow.
So at least when I was in high school, the gay boys would be cool with me. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or some cis women would be cool with me. But in college, my freshman year, nobody, because what I didn't understand is in Mississippi, even the gay people were in the closet because it was so conservative.
Mhm.
And so me hanging out with a gay boy would pull him out of the closet.
Out of the
And
closet.
I didn't understand it because I'm talking to these boys and I'm like, people already know you're gay, right? Like, cause they weren't
Like
like
that ain't no secret, homie.
like that ain't no secret. Like people know you gay, but it's strange. But anyway, they were trying to harm me. And I end up the second semester, I end up becoming a RA. I applied for it and got cool with the in my particular dorm, the leader, the dean of, I don't know what they're called, but whoever is the leader of the administrative leader of the dorm.
The ARD.
The ARD, yes. So I end up getting cool with him, and he let me become a resident assistant, a RA. And so that put me in a position to where all the gay boys, they wouldn't hang with me in the daytime, but at night they would be down in the office kikiing and laughing and da 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 da. And so it just opened up the door for it to be more social and more just a better situation for me. I had to get in a couple of fights, but because my mom was going through her addiction still and in and out of prison, she did go to prison another time, and I had to leave my junior year. I had to leave college, and because I got custody of my brother, I was 21 and got custody of my youngest brother because my mom went to prison.
Mm.
And so, and because I'm 21 at this time, I don't have what I had back in the day in high school. When you're still a kid, culturally, we protect children. Culturally, we want to, even if our strategy is not right, we want to put kids on the right path.
Right.
But by the time you get to 21, the culture says you grown. The culture says,
Yeah.
yeah, you're on your own now. So nobody is trying to step up and help me, especially since you are trans. So now you don't got the protecting of being a child, and now you get the full brunt of transphobia. You get the full brunt of whatever the oppression that comes. And so I had a job, and this is the next level. I had a job, and I got fired because I was trans.
Mm.
And in the state in Indiana at the time, because I went back to Indiana once I got custody of my brother and had to drop out. Um, because of the state, we didn't have legal protection. Well, any state, certain states did. Chicago, California, and like New York, certain states had protections, but we did not have gender identity as something that was protected. And so there was no legal discourse for me to actually sue my job.
Mm.
So I got fired. And so it forced me into sex work because I couldn't be homeless with my brother. And
Right.
so I started doing sex work, started hustling, started boosting, started, just doing whatever I could do to survive, to take care of me and my brother. It was definitely a downtime in my life. Definitely like we were on the grind. We got a house, we got we rented a house, and it just was a hard time in my life. But it was when I learned that, hey, this is the real world. This is how the real world treats trans people. And, now I can't find jobs because my name is not changed. My gender marker is not changed. I can't find jobs because, it's just, I would have to, because I was passable, I could lie. But then once my T came out, because I got to show them my ID, now they'll hire me, but then they're going to end up firing me. They're going to end up pushing me out by not giving me hours because I'm a trans person. And so it started to really affect my life. And so I was forced into sex work. And that's what I did for many, many years, just to take care of me and my brother.
Yeah, that had to be hard. Like to be 21. So I know culturally we say, well, you 21, you grown, but you're not really grown. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so
Legally grown, but you don't have the experience to know
yeah,
how to do.
yeah, and then have to take care of your brother. So it's like I'm not I really don't got the tools, right? Because I'm still young. I'm still trying to figure this out. And now because I'm 21, now I get the full brunt of transphobia and all of these other things that come with that. And so you add that stressor to having to essentially raise another human being while you still trying to figure out how you raising yourself is a lot. So
And then that's on the macro. When you talk about me particularly on the that's on the micro. I mean, when we think about the macro, understand what I'm coming into. So I'm coming off the heels of the crack epidemic of the 80s and 90s. My mother literally get caught up in that era. That's how she become an addict. That's literally how she becomes an addict. And so get caught up in the crack epidemic. I'm coming off the heels of the AIDS epidemic. So when it comes to the shame about gay people, anything that they consider gay, because there wasn't much difference in the public eye of a gay man and a trans woman. This is just a gay man dressed up in girl clothes. It wasn't, we didn't have the cultural education that we have now. And so the AIDS epidemic was also demon. I remember being 9 in Indiana, and my uncles would tell my mom, you need to stop having that boy up under you because he gonna be down there at the R Place. And R Place was the name of the gay club that was close to our house. He gonna be down there at the R Place, and then you'll be burying him with that gay man's disease. And so it already had instilled so much shame in people and in us. And I wasn't even HIV positive. I wasn't even sexually active at, you know what I'm saying, in high school and in this time, and they still was putting this on me and trying to put that curse on me. And so in this position, the world has literally, and not just that, in 1987, Michael Taylor was killed by the police. This is my uncle in Indianapolis. So this is a George Floyd case before 20 years, 30 years before. You know, George Floyd. So this is the same thing. Like, he literally was killed by the police in handcuffs, and they claimed that it was a suicide. So it was this big protest that was happening. That's 1987. So this is when I'm in my 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 era. So I'm on a cultural level. I'm a little boy coming in a world that says, as a Black boy, you can be harmed, because Michael Taylor was 16. He wasn't a grown man like George Floyd. He was killed by the police at 16. So the world is telling me that even the police, who is to protect you, will kill your ass as a Black boy.
Absolutely.
I'm coming in to as a queer child and learning from my mother that a feminine entity, especially if you're assigned female at birth, but even if you are a feminine entity assigned male at birth, like myself, sexually, you are in harm's way to men. Then you got the crack epidemic where it's not like now where the opioid, the addicts need resources and this is a sickness, we got to help them. We got to put money into getting them off the drug. Crack epidemic, they was like, lock these motherfuckers up.
Facts. That's facts.
They are creating super predators. They're creating crack babies that are turning into super predators, that are turning into criminals with heartless criminals and da-da-da-da. I was somebody who was living this because my mother was a drug addict. And so I'm seeing how they are criminalizing her. I'm seeing how she's in a bind. This is even before her addiction kicked in, how she's in a bind as far as work and as far as having to survive as a single mom, raising children. And then when she gets on her addiction, how they're demonizing her as a mother, even though she was taking care of us initially. Even though she was taking care of them, but she was demonized as this is a crack mother and da 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 da. So I'm seeing this, all this stuff happen. So by the time I get to college, and so by the time I have to drop out of college, I have lived all the way through this. And so this is 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And then politically, this is also George Bush era.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot going on in regards to what's happening in the world that is also affecting in the macro, that is affecting my micro, that is affecting my interpersonal. And yeah, it was really, really hard. Really, really hard. But the blessing of it is, the blessing of what was happening in the culture too, is that this is also during the internet boom. And so as an escort, a sex worker, this is the heyday of sex work, because there is little bit of regulation. You really have the access to be able to travel and get access to like big money clients because of the internet that you normally wouldn't have access to because you live in this small town. And so I was able to afford things that I needed for my transition, surgeries and blah 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 blah, because, and take care of myself. My brother was fly, always getting school clothes, always getting the best shoes, the Jordans, and what he was always in the best things because I was a sex worker and I was able to give him the best. And so that's where I was in the early 2000s in my life.
And so I I just commend your resilience through all of that. You know what I mean? Like it ain't easy. Most definitely is not easy. So going down the road, so we how do we come out of that? Like, so when do we come out of that, and what do we move on to?
So my mother gets out of prison, and you know, she's clean, and you know, my brother is still in high school, and so she get custody of my brother back. I'm free now, but I want to go back and get my degree. And so she's like, "Hey, come to Mississippi, go back to school, go back to Jackson State," because she was living in Jackson State. She was living in Jackson at the time. She was like, "You can go back to Jackson State. You can finish getting your degree." I wanted to at the time, but I also was chasing my womanhood. I wanted my surgeries because I had already been to Jackson State without any surgery. And you know, the pressures of womanhood. I didn't want to go back to school without having my stuff done. I felt like I was already beautiful, but you know, in transition, you want to be the peak of whatever you're creating. And so I felt like I wanted to go back to schools with my surgeries finished, so I wouldn't have to go through my surgery, blah, blah, blah. So I was still working and escorting because, yes, it started off as survival, but then it ended up being, oh, this is a hustle. This is a tool in my toolbox. And so I came down to Mississippi and started hustling. But what I didn't know at the time is my mother was, she was clean, but she's about to go through a relapse. And so she went through the relapse, and we end up homeless again because she wasn't spending the money on what she needed to spend the money on. But this time I was a super adult, not super adult, but I was 26, 27 at this time. And I had hustled and lived on my own and raised my brother and helped raise my brother. You get what I'm saying? I had done a little bit. So I knew how to survive. So I told myself literally, yo, you grown. You know how to do what you need to do. So unlike previous years when your mama fucked up, you didn't have nothing to do, but now you can.
Now you got this.
You got this. So I really wasn't worried. So what I did, I picked myself up and went to Houston. Now I was homeless. I'll give you the context of Houston. I was with a down low man, so I couldn't stay with him. But he said, if you come down here, I'll pay your rent for 3 months. So, but you got to find you a place. But I don't have nothing. Like, I got $57 in my pocket. And so when I called it, I'm on Black Planet. I'm an old
Black Planet.
Hey. So I'm on Black Planet. I'm in the chat room in there, and there's a trans girl in this trans chat room, and she's looking at my body, and she was like, because I had got my body done and got it together, and she was like, "Oh my God, your body is so gorgeous. Who did it?" And I told her my surgeon. She was like, "Ooh, will you take me to him?" Because it was in Mexico. And I was like, "Well, I'm kind of going through a bind right now. I'm homeless and don't know, when I get on my feet, which I am going to get on my feet, I will take you." And she was like, "Oh, what is," like, she asked me what my situation was, and she was basically saying, now I'm meeting her in the chat room, I don't know her at all, and she says, "Well, you can come stay with me, I live in Houston." I'm like, "Oh." So, but before I found out about her, I called the shelter, the women's shelter, and they were telling me that I couldn't stay at the women's shelter because I wasn't a cis woman. And so they gave me number to the men's shelter. I called the men's shelter. I didn't want to go there because that could be dangerous. But they also said that it could be dangerous. She's like, if you can't detransition, like if you can't take your breast off, I have been growing my breast since I was 16. So this is 10 years in the game. So they can't come off. My hair was down my back. I couldn't this wasn't drag for me. I can't take off the
Right.
wig, take off the make. This was my life.
Right.
And so they were like, if you can't take that stuff off, you are a liability. So you can't stay with us. Because if somebody assaults you, blah, 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 then you're a liability. So this is 2 shelters that I can't stay at. There was an LGBT shelter. Do you know I couldn't stay there? You know
Why?
what? Let me
Why?
tell you why. So I called them and they said, well, we only cater to people who are HIV positive.
What?
That's what their grant is for. And so I was not HIV positive. So because I wasn't a cis woman, because I wasn't a cis man, and because I wasn't HIV positive, I could not stay at any of the shelters in Houston that was geared towards me.
Wow.
Ain't that crazy?
That is
So
just
the infrastructure that a normal person could go to and get help when they are having hard times and unhoused and blah, 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 I could not get access to it because I was a trans person. So that girl's couch looked quite welcoming.
like that's looking mighty good.
That's looking mighty good. So that's what happens. I go and stay with her for a month. I come to Houston November the 15th, and I get my own apartment December the 16th. So a whole month I was able to pay, and plus, I'm still sex working because, honey, once it's in your toolbox, it's in your toolbox. And so I'm hustling, and as soon as I get to Houston, and I'm a little bit older, I'm a little bit more advanced. So when I come to Houston, and anybody knows sex work, the main cities in Houston in United States for sex work is Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. That those are big money for Black girls. And so me coming to Houston as a young, beautiful trans woman, I was making money because I'm the new girl. I was making tons of money. And so by the time a month later, my bank account was looking love, and the download dude that I was with, he did pay my rent for 3 months. So I was able to furnish my apartment. I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath because in case my brother needed to come stay with me, because now he was like 16, 17, and he didn't want to leave based on what my mom was going through. He didn't want to leave. So he ended up staying with one of his friends so he can finish high school in Jackson, Mississippi. And I told him if anything gets hard, he can just come stay with me. I now have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, so you'll have your own room. So anyway, I hit the ground running when I get to Houston, and I put myself in this amazing situation where I'm staying on the north side of Houston. I got my apartment. I'm making money, but also I'm getting older. And I'm like, I don't want to be a sex worker for a long time. Like at this point, I have been in the game for like 5 years, and I'm like, okay, I done got all the surgeries that I wanted. I'm in a new city. I want to do something more. So I want to stop escorting. But the transition from escorting to something else, I needed to go back to school because I only had 1 more year to finish. and my life was just kind of shifting. I don't know. I was like, child, you have a brilliant mind. I've always been a smart, um, I just knew it was more to my life than being a hoe. Like that just what if I'm being real.
I
It's
got
like it was more to my life than that. And so I went back to school. And I started to ease myself off of sex work. So I became a maid, a housekeeper. Um, I became, and when I moved into my apartment, I started a YouTube channel. This is 2008. And what people don't know about YouTube at the time is right now anybody can come on YouTube and make money. But at this time, you could only make money on YouTube if you were invited to be a partner.
uh-huh.
And so at the time they called it YouTube partnership. And only way you could get invited is if you had a certain level of audience and your video views got a certain level of notoriety. And for some reason, during that time with me, everybody on YouTube was selling, anybody who was trans, they were talking about their physical transition, like being on testosterone for this amount of time, being on estrogen for this amount of time. Oh, this is 2 months after surgery. It was all about the physical. But me, because I had transitioned so early, I was so far past that stage in my life that only thing I had to offer to the YouTube community was my stories of living, my lived experience, my relationships, my relationship with my mom, my relationship with my boyfriends, my relationships with my friends that revolved around my identity. And I started posting videos about just my life, and people were resonating with it. Like, oh my God, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, and started to really relate. And so my numbers start to grow. I was getting 20, 30,000 views. And YouTube, that was a bunch. At the time, that was a bunch. And at the time, 2008. So they invited me. I'm the first trans person, Black trans person. There was a white girl who was a partner too. But I was the first Black trans woman to become a YouTube partner. And I was making like $2,000, $3,000 on YouTube videos. So that money helped me transition from being an escort. So I was doing YouTube videos, started telling my story, started doing interviews with trans people around the country. I started to not just tell my story, tell other people's story. And this is before this renaissance that happened in the past decade. When it wasn't a trend to be on the trans shit. And so this is before Laverne Cox, before Isis King on Top Model, Jayla Sims on Working with P. Diddy, Making the Band, and these moments in pop culture where trans people were coming up. At this time, they still were kind of like this sensationalized thing, like Jerry Springer, and
Yeah.
This where transness was kind of like this thing where it was a subculture of a subculture.
Right.
And in the LGBT, it was a little T. It wasn't no big T. It was all about the lesbian and the gays.
Right. We was the little T.
The little T, right? And so the Renaissance happened like around, in the teens, in the 2010s, that it started to up. But prior to that, in 2008, 2009, 2010, I was doing interviews of trans people. So even on my YouTube channel now, you can go back to I have a whole archive of trans interviews with trans people dating back all the way to that time. So I was kind of groundbreaking in that sense. And so it became a source of income. It became something that I was passionate about. And so in that process, I started working at a retail store and become a store manager there. So it gave me more security and the YouTube videos. And because of this, I started to position myself as a trans voice, a premiering trans voice in community. Any kind of news. I was reporting on Caster Semenya in Africa, where they were, being kicked out of women's track I talked about Castor in 2009, in 2008, 2009. So they were, I was already doing this kind of trans focused work back then. And so people started to see me as a leader. And so people started to invite me to conversations. I ended up graduating and get my degree in 2010. And so even though, now mind you, I am trying to get out of sex work, but at this time, honey, if somebody called me with some coins, I'm taking it. So that's where I was in this kind of early 2010s where, yes, I have a job. Yes, I have a hustle with my YouTube videos, but also, sometimes ends needed to meet and I would take some clients. I stopped advertising as an escort in 2009.
Gotcha.
So I didn't put any ads up, but people who already had my number, if they wanted to call and set an appointment, I'm still taking it. And shit, I'm like that today. If I'm gonna keep it real. But I don't advertise as I stopped advertising because I was like, it's more to do and you just have a whole different vision for your life. And so now it would be just for fun, just to, money and fun. And so I started to be invited to spaces where organizing spaces, and I was already based on my family. I was already kind of what the kids today. Well, I don't want to say kids because we used that language back in the 90s too. I was already kind of woke.
Mm-hmm.
I was already, I had Muslims, Christians, Pan-Africans. I was a part of a Asante Children Theater when I was like 12, 13, 14. And that was led by like dreadlock wearing lesbians and queer women. So I was already introduced to Audre Lorde and Combahee River Collective and
Yes.
these Black feminist icons were already in my mental database when it came to that started when I was in my teens. And so those kind of galvanizing political ideologies that was already in me. And so once I become this organizer, I already have these kind of Black feminist theories that are already in me, and it just kind of bubbles up and becomes, almost like religion to me, so I'm starting to get into these icons. I'm starting to uh, be a scholar in it, not just knowing it. Oh, I read Patricia Hill Collins. Oh, I read these things, but this is as a teenager. I don't have the lived experience to apply it to my life now. But now, when I'm in my 30s, at this time, I can actually have the scholarship and the academia and actually put it in practice and not just have the know about the theory, actually put the praxis into my life. And so in the 2010s is when I started to do this. And because of what was going on in the culture with trans people, I started to be a leader. And so the universe moved gay marriage out of our way. Because if you remember, gay marriage was the topic. When it comes to the litmus test of the LGBT community, any politician was always asked, what is your stance on gay marriage? That was the litmus test to prove if you were down with the LGBT community.
Yes.
So once Oglefeld passed in 2015, once it became into law, they had to find something else to use to fundraise, not just, and to be an enemy. When it comes to the right wing and conservative, they need a new enemy because now gay marriage was no longer on the table. We won. And then even on the Democratic side or the left side or the progressive side, they needed something else to organize to. And as we just shared, we were the little T. So we were the next frontier. And so if you notice in 2015, once that passed, we started to get the Hillary Clinton and Trump campaign in 2016.
Yep.
This is the first time that there started to be these trans bathroom bills. We had the trans man Gavin Newsom was it North Carolina? I think that was North Carolina.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
North
not Newsom, Gavin something, Gavin Grimm. Gavin Grimm. So I can't remember exactly his name. I think it's Gavin Grimm. He took it to court for them to go to the bathroom and protect our bathroom rights. We started to see these anti-trans bills pop up more so now, but it started in 2015, 16. Then we hear transness being mentioned on the primaries.
Yep.
We started to see trans people become senators. We started to see trans people become politicians. Most delegates, not most, some delegates was even trans. So many people in Obama's administration were trans. And so we had the most trans administration leaders in his administration. He really did a powerful work in putting us in positions of power during his administration. So we started to see this kind of uptick in 2015 of talking about trans issues. Then we see culturally shows being recorded, trans characters, trans storylines, people just bringing the trans identity, the T in the LGBT to the forefront. But simultaneously, we have this Black Lives Matter racial awakening happening because it's also when Trayvon Martin happened. And so just like in the 60s, when the civil rights movement was bubbling up, the sexual revolution was bubbling up as well. Because we know Stonewall, we know that's the most popular one that happened in 1969. But even in the Compton cafeteria riots in San Francisco, which happened 4 years before that, when we the Dewey's Donuts in Philadelphia, it was so many different uprisings of sexual liberation and not just racial liberation, all happening at the same time in the 60s. And so we saw that bubbling up. And now in the 2010s, we saw that same thing happening simultaneously because oppression is connected. We see, especially if you're queer and Black, we see the connection between these two entities because we care about our race and we care about our gender identity and sexuality. And so these movements, usually if there's a bubbling up in the racial movement, there's going to be a bubbling up in the sexual liberation movement and the gender identity movement. It's just going to happen. And so that's what we see in the 2010s. And so it leads to where we are today. And so in this process, I have become a premier voice. I have created films and projects and just things that kind of archive the trans experience. So when we think about Black Trans Advocacy Coalition, I didn't found it. Carter Brown and Kamarian Anderson founded it, but they brought us on as soon as they were founding it as the steering committee. And so I was on the board. So it wasn't like, they founded it, but they brought me in immediately on the next year. And so for 10 years, we created this space, Black Trans Advocacy Coalition, in a conference where Black trans people can come and see and celebrate ourselves. And then in 2017, I create Marsha's Plate, which is a show that showcases trans leaders and trans news since 2017, led by trans people.
I had never heard of it before our first meeting, and then as soon as we was done, like I have been listening to like I done started from the first, and I'm working my way up. I love it. I love it.
I love it. So I founded it myself, and I brought in some co-hosts, Mia and Z first. Those were my first two co-hosts, and what I didn't know at the time when I hired them on, that they actually, right that week, started dating. Not because they had met the week before out in the world. And I interviewed both of them and brought them on, and they started dating. So I couldn't have set that up. I didn't know anything about it. And so what happens on the show is while we also are exploring trans news and trans stories, we are actually live in the moment exploring a trans on trans relationship because they both are trans people dating each other.
I love it.
So we have they'll have arguments on the show. They'll bring in, so that also just it was like, I won't say it was messy, but that made people tune in too. Like, dang, we didn't even think about this. We didn't even think about trans on trans relationships.
Because people want to see the authentic, authentic relationships.
Exactly. And then we bring in our parents, my brother. We bring in so many different layers to the trans experience. And so it just started to relate to people, and it just blew up. We hit our first million in 2021, and we're at 1.5 million now. And we get probably like 40,000 a month listeners. We have been commissioned to do a film which is called Intentionally Erased, and it is a film documentary exploring anti-trans violence between and we basically we cultivate, we curate a conversation between 4 Black trans women and 4 cishet Black men.
I can't wait for that.
It's out. You can check it out. It's called Intentionally Erased.
I'm looking for it.
It's been out since 2022. And you can check that out. We actually, in Houston, we will be doing a film screening July the 16th. So even if you want to take a trip to Houston,
I might have to take a trip.
Come on down. And that's July. We're doing a film screening there. I was commissioned to consult on one of the most amazing projects that I have, just in regards to my passion. Outside of Intentional Erase, because that film was a dream come true. I created a database with Insiders Inc., which is investigative journalism organization. And we created a database around trans homicides that includes trans women, trans men, non-binary people. It's the most comprehensive database for covering cases of trans homicides for 5 years. So from 2017 to 2022. And so we wanted to document what happened, how were they murdered, what was, all the details around their homicide, but also the outcomes of their homicide. Did this case get solved? Did they get a conviction? How much time did they get convicted? Who was the murderer? All the details. And there's so much education and data that we learned from doing this work, from this database, that we learned that racism and socioeconomic status leads, and hate and shame leads to us being murdered. It is our murders aligned with cis women in a way that it's usually our intimate partners. So a lot of people love to sell the narrative that we're out here tricking people, that we're out here deceiving people, and that's why we are getting murdered. But that is not the case. It actually is people who actually know who we are, and it's our intimate partner, in the same way that cis women's intimate partners are murdering them. And so it's horrible. It's a horrible affirmation, but it affirms that the lives that we are living we are having the same effects as whatever gender that we are, even with trans men. We know that Black trans women lead in the murders, but if you just take trans women out of the equation and just look at trans men, 40% of trans men who were murdered, who were killed during this time, were killed by police. So that reflects the disparity happening with Black men. Because Black trans men also dominated the murder cases when it comes to that. And so they were either killed by their partner or killed by cops. and some of them were killed on mental health runs. So we know that suicide plagues transmasculine experience. So these are, and it also plagues cis men as well. And so I love this database so much because it gives us factual database knowledge about what is happening to us in this country when it comes to our murders in our lives and our lived experience. And I won a Script Howard Journalism Award for
Congratulations.
the work that we did. It was so amazing. So yeah, so that's just one of the joys of my life. So I've been featured on Hulu on this documentary called Pride to Be Seen, and we won a GLAAD award for that, for the documentary. It's still on. If you want to watch it, check it out.
Okay. Check it out in a few minutes. I'm about to check that out.
Pride to Be Seen on Hulu. And yeah, I've been a part of so many things. So many things. It's just something that right now in my life, I am just flourishing and being acknowledged and being appreciated and creating content that I think is content and being a part of project that I think is moving us in the next direction. My last thing that I want to mention is in 2022 as well, I flew 12 women, cis and trans, to Hawaii to record for I call it my Purple Seeds program. And purple because, color purple. I love the color purple. And it's an amazing story about sisterhood and togetherness and supporting each other. I call it my Purple Seeds program, to where I'm trying to bridge the gap between trans women and cis women, because a lot of times when things go viral, it's always us versus them kind of moment. But what I know in my life is that there are some affirming cis women in the world who are amazing, who I have organized with, who affirm me, who don't disrespect me, who think of me as their sister, who love me like their sister, who knows they know I'm a woman and I don't have to be in spaces where I'm being disrespected or feeling invalidated. I know that there are cis women out here just like that. And so I wanted to kind of showcase that collaboration instead of showcasing the us versus them type of situation. And so I brought 12 cisgender women. I'm a six cisgender women, six cisgender women and 6 trans women together to record conversations about Black love, Black beauty, Black pride, Black liberation, all the positive things, because we're always talking about our disparities. And yes, we go into some of our disparities, but we wanted to talk about it through a positive lens in our coalition and what similarities we have, that instead of us differences. Yes, I know we can't have a period. Yes, I know we can't have babies. Yes, we know the differences. That's obvious. But what is the similarities that we can come together and work together and see what we can bloom? What's the seeds the plants that can, if we plant these purple seeds, what can grow from this bloom? And we have some amazing women who have these amazing conversations about just about body sovereignty. Because when we think about what's happening in our culture now, us having control over our bodies, think about reproductive justice and the lack of trans healthcare, them not wanting us to have access to hormones and access to things that we can control our body and our gender identity, but also the attack on reproductive justice with cis women and trans men and anybody who is a birthing individual. These things are about body sovereignty and body autonomy, and we all have a fight in that game. And that's where we can see the coalition happening, instead of ignoring and worrying about what our bodies can't do and worried about labels and pronouns and blah, blah, blah. This is where we can come together and actually fight the enemy that we both have. And so we have amazing conversations about that. But that is a project that I'm proud of. So I wanted to mention that. It is the Purple Seeds Project, Empower Her Project. And the conversation, if you want to listen to it, and I'll link you, is on YouTube, and it is amazing.
Yes, I would love that. Good. This has been awesome, 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 awesome. Like I swear from the first time I was like super excited that I was gonna get to sit down and talk with you. I personally as a trans
Franklin song. Sorry. Classic.
as a trans man would like to thank you for your resilience, for your voice, for standing in the gap for all of us. um, I'm just in awe. I'm just like in complete and utter awe. Thank you so much for giving me your time on your birthday. Where would our readers find you if they was looking for you?
You can find me on www.diamondstylz.com. And that's diamond spelled the regular way, Diamond, style spelled Stylz, as in zebra, no ES, styles with a Z instead of ES.
Gotcha.
Diamond Stylz on all social media platforms. I'm on TikTok, Diamond Stylz, same thing, DiamonDSTYLZ. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. All Diamond Stylz. You can find me anywhere. Twitter. That's where I talk the most shit. Yeah, I'm a fashion girly. So if you go on my Instagram or something like that, I'm usually showing my fashion. My
I've
Instagram.
been checking out the fashion now.
Yeah, so that's what I do there because I don't want my life just to be activism and da 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 da. I do my fashion thing. If you are wanting just the trans activism, then I suggest you follow Marsha's Plate, my podcast, because that is the focus of trans liberation and queer liberation, and we are a show that is inclusive of trans women, trans men, non-binary people, and so that's where we do kind of the organizing and the news and teach you about trans shit. So but my own personal is Diamond Style, so it's all of my interests. All of them. And so you can find me there, so follow me, Diamond Stylz or Marsha's Plate, anywhere.
So it is a custom. Whenever I do an interview to end, I always say my sister always tells me that words mean things. So what would be a word that you could leave with the people and why that word till they see us again?
Until we black out. Um, oh God, a word. Hmm. Oh gosh, love is coming to mind. I think love is important. Like love, courage. Let me say courage. I was gonna say love, but you cannot do you cannot do anything powerful without courage. You have to have courage. Like there is nothing that you can embark on without having the courage to do it. It starts anything you do. So courage.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Like I said, this your resident old man here. Check us out on Blackout Magazine. If you are not a subscriber to Blackout Magazine, I don't know what y'all doing. I keep telling y'all, you need to subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. So till the next time, y'all be easy.